In the middle of the night, the woman secretly got up while her husband was asleep, and then she picked up the clothes her husband had taken off after showering and smelled them. Suddenly, her heart was filled with anger. A few days ago, when Juchi was doing the laundry, a piece of nail art fell out of her husband's trouser pocket, and she suddenly remembered the warning her kind female colleague had given her during the day. Out of a woman's intuition, she knew what this meant. So Juchi, who never went to the office, bought a lot of coffee that day. She just wanted to use this opportunity to observe who had done the same nail art. But after she had distributed all the coffee, she didn't find anything. At that time, Juchi noticed that Monli was not at her desk. When Juchi found the gym, Monli was practicing yoga. Juchi immediately noticed that the nail art on Monli's hand was the same as the one on her husband's shirt. Her husband, Junyu, is an executive at the company. His colleagues think he is young and capable. He often posts updates about his wife and children online. Even his clients think he is a good man who takes care of his family. But who would have thought that Junyu was a two-faced hypocrite? That night, Junyu called his wife on video to say that he would be home late with a client. Juchi saw that her husband's social media updates did indeed show him having dinner with a client, so she didn't think much of it. In fact, she was also an academic prodigy who had won first prize in a global programming competition. It was just that at the height of her life, she chose to become a housewife. She never imagined that in just a few years, her husband would have changed. The next day, Juchi went to the hotel to investigate the clues. She gave the hotel staff her husband's ID number and pretended to be staying for another night. The staff asked, "Are you still two people checking in tonight?" This completely broke Juchi's heart. She thought back to the promises her husband had made her during their university days. "Please trust me, I will give you a warm home." At that moment, Juchi burst into tears. She knew that her marriage with her husband was over. Junyu said a lot of sweet nothings to Juchi and tried to make out with her, but she refused. He knew that Juchi had begun to doubt him. In order to test Juchi, he pretended to have hurt his back playing golf. Juchi did not lose her temper at this point, but took the initiative to help Junyu with a massage. Junyu immediately questioned her. "What is the secret to keeping our love fresh?" Juchi's unusual behavior only confirmed his fears. Juchi had underestimated Junyu. The next day, she went to the bank to check their family's savings. The bank manager told her that Junyu had just transferred all the money. Juchi then realized that Junyu had already started transferring his assets. That night, mother-in-law accidentally mentioned that Junyu had bought them a villa. Junyu then said that he had taken out all the money because he was in a hurry to use it. After dinner, he started to argue in various ways. Buying a house is more valuable. As for writing your parents' names, it's because they are a family. Junyu is just good at talking, without showing any flaws. However, to outsiders, Junyu is a good husband who is considerate and gentle to his wife, and he even shows off their affection in public. No matter where he goes, he brings his wife along. In other people's eyes, they are a perfect match, but only Juchi knows that Junyu is a complete scumbag. One night a few days ago, their daughter Lily suddenly had an acute allergic reaction and had difficulty breathing. Juchi called Junyu, but there was no answer. She had no choice but to run to the hospital alone with Lily on her back, while Junyu was at the hotel working overtime with his mistress. Luckily Juchi took her daughter to the hospital in time and she was fine. The next morning Junyu returned home. Juchi confronted him about what he had been doing last night. Junyu instead blamed Juchi for not taking care of their daughter. Juchi angrily said, "I took our daughter to the hospital alone last night and I called you 12 times. Junyu said, "You didn't hear me clearly? My phone ran out of battery." He completely lost the gentlemanly demeanor he usually displays in front of others and revealed his true self. He appeared very impatient when Juchi questioned him. Of course, he would never admit to the good deed he did last night. What he didn't expect was that it was his tie that was left behind at the hotel, and Monli had asked the waiter to send it back to him. Junyu even tried to argue that it was someone's prank. Then the two of them had a fierce quarrel. Junyu instead accused Juchi of making things up for no reason. The two of them yelled so loudly that they scared the baby crying. Lily said that her mother was still sick with a fever. Junyu then stormed out of the door. Lily said that now that her father was gone, no one would bully her mother anymore. Juchi couldn't help but cry with pain when she heard her daughter's words. However, the appearance of a man at this time changed Juchi. This man was Juchi's college classmate Zihan. Zihan had always liked Juchi since college, but Juchi chose Junyu instead. Even now, Zihan still remembers Juchi. Juchi knows that she and her husband can no longer live together. so she starts consulting a lawyer about divorce. She has two demands: to get custody of her daughter and to get half of the property. But the lawyer tells her that Junyu has already started transferring his assets, so Juchi may get nothing in the divorce. The lawyer told her not to worry and quietly investigate evidence of Junyu's assets. After thinking about it, Juchi had a bold idea, which was to persuade Monli to help her. Monli questioned, "Why do you think I would go with you?" Because Juchi accidentally learned from the boss when she went to sell the ring that Monli was short of money, so she thought Monli would definitely help her. Juchi promised to give Monli 20% of her share of the property. Sooner or later, you will know how stupid it is to talk about feelings with him. He only loves himself. I'm your warning. In fact, Monli is also a pity. She has a lazy brother, and a large part of her money comes from Junyu's alms. The reason why it is called alms is that Junyu has never taken her seriously. Monli's mind kept replaying what Juchi had said. In fact, at this time, Monli had already wavered. She was considering whether to help Juchi. However, because of one thing, she finally made up her mind. That night, Monli sent a message to Junyu. If she closes a big account, what's the reward? Junyu said he'll give you a promotion and a pay rise. Monli thought she was finally going to get ahead and was thrilled. Then, in order to close the account, she almost lost her innocence. In the middle of the night, she went alone to talk to President Lin about the contract. And this President Lin, seeing that Monli was quite attractive, got some mischievous ideas. He instructed his subordinates to keep encouraging her to drink. And President Lin also let it be known that whether or not the contract could be signed today would depend on whether Monli could hold her drink. In order to get the contract, Monli had to drink as much as she could. But how could a girl drink with a group of men? At this time, someone whispered something in President Lin's ear. Monli went to the toilet to vomit because she had drunk too much. Unexpectedly, President Lin followed her. Then he volunteered to take Monli home in his car. Monli kept refusing, but the other party insisted on pulling her into the car. This scene happened to be seen by Juchi. Juchi immediately picked up a bottle of water and splashed it on her to wake her up. In order to help Monli sober up, Juchi even personally made radish soup for her. Early the next morning, Monli hurriedly reported the good news to Junyu, saying that she had signed the contract. At first, Junyu, who had a stern face, only improved his expression after hearing the news. However, what made Monli angry was that Junyu had actually given the order to Cyan, which made Monli see Junyu's ugly face clearly. The next day, she questioned Junyu why he gave the order to someone else. Junyu said Cyan threatened to resign, and now was the critical moment for Junyu's promotion, so he was sacrificing someone else for his own future. Even if that person was Monli, he didn't care. Monli then remembered that Juchi's Junyu was a selfish villain. However, Junyu was probably digging his own grave. Once Monli agrees to work with Juchi against him, he will be ruined. However, Junyu doesn't think about this and thinks that everything is under his control. That's why he dares to take advantage of Monli so recklessly. Seeing that Monli is a bit disheartened, Junyu starts saying all kinds of nice things. Junyu also prepares a promotion report for her. He thinks that this way Monli will let things go. Monli angrily says, "Do you think I can trust you again?" Junyu said, "I guarantee you that there will be good news soon. I've reserved 2 seats at the usual place tonight. It's my way of apologizing to you." What Junyu didn't expect was that Monli said she wasn't in the mood. After she left the office, Junyu threw her promotion report in the trash. To Junyu, Monli was someone he could manipulate at will. Monli, who was upset, went to the gym alone to let off some steam. Just then, Juchi arrived. As Junyu's actions became more and more outrageous, Monli and Juchi joined forces. Perhaps they could soon achieve their goal. As for Juchi saving Monli from President Lin last night, Monli was still grateful for Juchi's help. It was just that the straw that broke the camel's back had not yet appeared, so this time she still rejected Juchi. Up until now, Monli still had illusions about Junyu, always thinking that she was different from Juchi. Then reality taught her a harsh lesson. Junyu arranged for her to be transferred to a peripheral department in the company in order to distance herself from her. Cyan, who had taken her order, was directly promoted to department manager. Everyone applauded and congratulated Cyan. Monli, however, was dumbfounded. It was obvious that she had negotiated the order herself. but the promotion and pay rise went to someone else. She questioned why she had been transferred. Junyu said that this was the company's arrangement. The company had followed the principles of fairness and justice and given each of you a score. Monli was furious at this moment. She realized that she had been abandoned by Junyu and she was powerless to fight back. Feeling depressed, she happened to meet Jechi on the street. Jechi had been hit by a car, but there was nothing she could do to get out of it. However, Monli stepped forward at this time. After a few words, she scared the hit-and-run driver away. If it weren't for Junyu, Monli and Jechi might have been good friends. At the company, Monli kept waiting for Junyu to give her an explanation, but Junyu simply didn't want to talk to her, and he deliberately transferred Monli away, so there was no way she could be transferred back. Monli had seen Junyu's true colors for good this time. The next day, Monli went to the gym to find Jechi on her own initiative. They didn't say a word to each other, just looked at each other. Not long ago, Zihan and Jechi finally ran into each other on a forum. By this time, Zihan was already a well-known celebrity in the industry. Jechi, who had once been more capable than him, had become a housewife. This made Zihan simply unable to believe it. Jechi, who had gotten married, was not at all happy. Her husband often bought her green hats. What's more, Junyu treated their respective parents differently. One day, Jechi took her father-in-law to the hospital for a checkup. She only left for a moment, but was immediately scolded by Junyu. Jechi said that her father had broken a bone and was hospitalized. Jechi had just met Zihan at the hospital and learned that her father had broken a bone and was hospitalized. However, the two elders knew that Jechi's in-laws were difficult to deal with and did not dare to tell her. It's also a coincidence that Zihan was Jechi's father's student. This time, Jechi's father was hospitalized and Zihan was busy running around. He is more like a son-in-law than Junyu. At this time, Junyu arrived at the hospital in a new Mercedes. Unexpectedly, the security guard looked down on him and told him to park the car properly. In fact, this sports car belongs to Zihan. When Junyu arrived at the door of the ward, he heard his mother-in-law praising Zihan for how excellent he is. He teased Zihan, "Thanks for taking care of our family's business. How long are you planning to stay this time?" Zihan said he had decided to stay in China. "I have already achieved financial freedom, so I don't have to worry about money anymore." His comment about achieving financial freedom made Junyu feel even worse. Junyu knew that Zihan liked Jechi, especially now that Zihan's worth is several hundred million more than his. So Junyu began to test Jechi to see if she had been in contact with Zihan, but Jechi didn't want to talk to him at all. Junyu could only watch in frustration as Zihan drove off in his luxury car. In the car, he accused Zihan of being hypocritical. He dropped Jechi off downstairs and was about to leave. In the middle of the night, Jechi asked him where he was going. Of course Junyu wouldn't tell Jechi that he was going to work overtime at the hotel. Jechi looked at the car as it drove away and regretted ever falling for Junyu. At home, her mother-in-law also treated Jechi like a servant and bossed her around. She really can't take it anymore. The next day is Jechi's father's discharge date from the hospital. Junyu had originally promised Jechi that he would come pick them up, but Junyu said he had something come up at the last minute and asked them to take a ride home. Just as her mother was complaining, a luxury car stopped in front of them. From these small things, you can see that Zihan is much better than Junyu. The next day, Jechi was ready to return to work, but the other party only recruits fresh graduates. It is very difficult for a stay-at-home mom to re-enter the workforce. Just when Jechi felt disappointed and frustrated, a kind act of hers changed her life forever. A mother in the toilet cubicle asked for her help. Her clothes were soaked with breast milk, which was very embarrassing. Jechi took over the clothes and took them to the dryer to dry. The mother was grateful. If she hadn't met Jechi, she would have been humiliated today. Jechi said that this kind of situation is normal during lactation. "When I was breastfeeding, I heard a baby crying in the street and my chest got wet." Jechi understands so well because she is also a mother. She gave the dried clothes to the woman and left, but she forgot her resume on the sink and didn't take it. However, before Jechi's good luck came, she also experienced some setbacks. That night, Junyu wanted to show his good husband and father image. He specially asked Jechi and his daughter to accompany him to the company's reception in their best clothes. Even if his daughter has the risk of skin allergies, Junyu doesn't care. Junyu to his daughter, "Today is a very important day for me. Just hang in there a little longer." Today, he is vying for the position of vice president of the company. That's why he brought his wife and daughter along. His goal is to show his boss that he is a good family man. Jechi can see right through Junyu's little scheme. Afterwards, his daughter said, Dad is always different at team building events. At dinner, he kept holding me in his arms. Even a child can tell how hypocritical Junyu is. That day, Juchi took her daughter back to her parents' home. She didn't expect to find Zihan there. Zihan said that the old Juchi was indeed the best he had ever seen. You showed me what true talent is. No matter how hard I tried, I could never surpass you. It's a pity. Ever since you gave up your career because of your emotions, that outstanding girl has disappeared. So Juchi had this unknown side to her. I'm sure she regrets it now. Regrets giving up her career and ideals for someone like Junyu. Luckily, Juchi now has a chance to start over. One day, she suddenly received a call from the company asking her to attend a second interview. The woman Juchi helped in the bathroom that day was the company's human resources manager. Seeing her resume, she thought she was very suitable for the position of research assistant, so she called her to come for a second interview. And the woman secretly told Juchi that their new CEO was also there, and Juchi should do well. However, when Juchi walked into the meeting room, she realized that Zihan was the CEO of this company. Zihan, as Juchi's father's student, just needs to go through the process of the second interview. But the unexpected thing is that Zihan refuses to hire Juchi. He believes that a 4-year career gap cannot be filled so easily. People like you, who easily give up on your career and ideals, are not suitable for development in our company. At this time, Monli is about to be driven crazy by her lazy younger brother. She works hard every day to provide for her younger brother, but her younger brother does nothing but play games every day. He even said, "Do I spend your money?" Monli felt suffocated by her brother's words. He was living off Monli like a parasite, but still he spoke ill of his sister. It was truly sad to have such a brother. Then her brother said, "Everyone knows about the things you do behind my back. Please behave yourself in the future. I still have my pride." Monli told him to pay back all the money he had spent in leave. That day, when Monli finished work, she found her brother was video chatting with their mother. In the video, she kept praising him for being sensible and filial, and that he had transferred 25,000 yuan to her as soon as he got paid. Monli was puzzled. Her brother obviously hadn't gone to work, so where did he get a salary? After hanging up the video, she questioned him about the money. It turned out that her brother had transferred the money Monli had given him for rent and utilities to his mother. Monli had no money left. If the landlord came to collect the rent, she wouldn't even have the money to pay him. Her brother acted like it didn't matter to him, and Monli just wanted to cry. What made Monli even more devastated was that her mother asked her to transfer 500,000 yuan to her brother to renovate his house. It turned out that Tianza had lied to his mother, saying that he worked at a design institute and had a high salary. Monli said that she would tell her mother the truth about him. Tianza actually stopped her, saying that he also had dignity, and in order to build a house for her son, her mother called Monli early in the morning to ask for money. She didn't care at all whether her daughter was doing well outside. It was so unfortunate to live in such a family. Monli couldn't bear to hear any more and hung up the phone. After reading this, I finally understood why Monli admired Junyu. When Monli first entered society, her first job was under Junyu. With her family indifferent to her, Monli could only crave external respect and appreciation even more. In fact, this indirectly led to her excessive pursuit of success and fame in life. Just a day ago, Juchi and Monli teamed up to get evidence of Junyu setting up a competitor. It looked as if she could use this evidence to bring Junyu down and get custody of her daughter. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, Monli was coaxed and bribed by Junyu. As a result, Monli, who was still harboring illusions, destroyed the evidence. Later, Juchi also learned that Monli had not returned home last night. She immediately understood what had happened. She questioned Monli whether she had understood Junyu's true intentions. He was afraid that you would leak the evidence, so he was so nice to you. Don't you know Junyu's despicable tactics yet? But Monli is still looking forward to a bright future without Juchi. Seeing that she is beyond help, Juchi leaves angrily. She is extremely depressed and sits alone in the park. Because her parents can't get in touch with her, they are very anxious. Zihan finds her and scolds her. Juchi asks him why he looks down on her. "I gave up my ideals. You can go forward bravely and pursue your ideals alone. I also had no choice but to give up my work to return to the family." How could Zihan look down on her? He just couldn't bear to see her degenerate like this. That day, Juchi asked her mother-in-law to pick up her daughter from school. Unexpectedly, her mother-in-law was incompetent and only made things worse. When she called, she didn't realize that her child had wandered off. By the time she noticed, Lily had already disappeared. Jechi was extremely anxious after receiving the call. Zihan saw that she was rushing out, so he got into his car and drove her there. When Jechi arrived, the child had already been found. Not only did the mother-in-law not reflect on her actions, she blamed Jechi for letting her pick up the child. Junyu also blamed Jechi at this point. What do I get out of working hard to earn money to support the family? I want you to take care of this family and take care of our daughter, but you can't even do this little thing right. You really disappoint me. Junyu saw that Jechi was about to lose her temper, so he didn't continue. Zihan then sent the surveillance footage to Jechi, who showed it to Junyu before shutting up. Junyu wanted to be promoted to vice president so as to prevent Jechi from causing trouble at the company. He also organized a ceremony to mark their 10th anniversary. Back then Junyu had deliberately hit Jechi over the head with a basketball in order to woo her. Only Jechi didn't know at the time that Junyu had done it on purpose. Now, looking back, she realized that Junyu had been planning it for a long time. Then Junyu improvised a confession to Jechi. If it weren't for Jechi knowing his character, she would have almost believed it. Then all this Junyu was just trying to keep Jechi from causing trouble. Junyu even used Monli to frame his competitor in order to become vice president. In the end, his competitor was really fired from the company. Without a rival, Junyu is now convinced that the vice president's position is his. But now the boss not only has to shelve his vice president position, but also initiate an investigation into the person who betrayed the company. Junyu is now worried that he will be found out, but he came up with the idea of having Monli take the blame for him. The next day, Junyu found Monli and said, "From now on, the game between the two of us is over." Monli was still pleading with the other person not to be so ruthless, but Junyu is just a ruthless scumbag. That day, he discovered that someone had logged into his account. Because his account contained evidence of framing his colleague, he immediately became alert. Through the investigation of the company's network administrator, he learned that Monli had logged into his ID. He knew that at this time, Monli must have already obtained evidence of him framing his colleague. So Junyu once again changed his face and took Monli to a romantic restaurant, stimulated by the flowers, cakes and champagne. Monli, who was in love, fell for it again. In fact, Junyu was about to shift the blame onto her. In order to calm Monli's emotions, Junyu began to create a beautiful future for her. "Once I become vice president, the assistant position will be yours." Monli, secretly happy in her heart, foolishly deleted all of Junyu's evidence of his crimes. That day, Junyu suddenly discovered that his ID had been frozen. He learned through inquiries that the board of directors was investigating the person who betrayed the company and had already suspected him. Junyu immediately asked his supervisor for information. He knew that disaster was imminent, so he had to find someone to take the blame quickly. So he once again confirmed with Monli that he had destroyed all the evidence. After confirming that there was no evidence left behind, perhaps feeling guilty, Junyu told Monli to enjoy the night, because it would be their last supper. The next day, Monli was called into the meeting room, where several people stared at her like a criminal. Junyu was obviously feeling guilty and didn't dare to look Monli in the eye. It turned out that the company now suspected Monli of leaking customer information. Monli said she didn't have the authority to log in to the company's back end. The leader said, "You don't have the authority, but Junyu can, and the IP address of the account's last login was on your computer." Junyu hurriedly defended Monli, saying that she might have acted on impulse. "I implored the company to give the other party another chance on my behalf." At this point, Monli felt like she had been struck by lightning. Junyu had already shifted all the blame onto her. Monli was now at a loss for words. Even though she said at this point that Junyu had leaked the customer information, it was useless. The leader accused her of having no conscience. "Junyu was pleading for you, and you're saying that he leaked the secrets? If you didn't do it, why did you steal Junyu's account?" Junyu's tactics were really high. He played Monli like a puppet. But it's too late to say anything now. The company wants Monli to resign as soon as possible, or else she will be dealt with severely. Outraged, Monli catches Junyu as he's leaving work. Junyu thinks Monli has only herself to blame. Monli asks, "Why are you slandering me and plotting against me?" Junyu urges her to understand the company and leave quickly. Monli has seen Junyu's true face for once. This is the price for her stubbornness. Jechi's mother-in-law has just found a hotel receipt. She suspects that Jechi has a man on the side. Her father-in-law also reminds her, what if it's Junyu's? But her mother-in-law is stubborn and insists that it's Jechi's. It's precisely because of her foolish behavior that Jechi has unexpectedly received 500,000 yuan. They sneak into the room and take out the hotel receipt, asking Jechi to tell the truth. Jechi was at a loss for words, so she told her mother-in-law to ask Junyu to tell the truth. Coincidentally, Junyu returned from work at that moment. Her mother-in-law immediately perked up and showed Junyu the receipt. "Hurry up and ask your wife to tell us what's going on." Father-in-law said that our family has always been honest and upright. Junyu said that the receipt was his parents and they immediately became dumbfounded. They never thought that they would be the ones to expose their son's shameful deeds. Junyu tried to argue that it was the hotel bill from his business trip, but Jechi could tell that it was from a local hotel. Seeing that Junyu was not going to admit it, Jechi gave a hint. She knew where the receipt came from. Junyu was also smart. After getting his parents out of the room, he immediately took out 500,000 yuan to silence Jechi. Jechi gladly accepted it. But when the mother-in-law found out, she felt very distressed. The unwilling mother-in-law came up with a plan to get the 500,000 yuan back from Jechi. The next day, a fierce-looking man suddenly barged into the house. They were hired to act as Junyu's parents. They pretended that father-in-law owed them 500,000 yuan. They came to collect the debt today and threatened to destroy their home if they didn't pay. But they did a really good job acting. Mother-in-law pretended to scold Junyu on the side. Unexpectedly, Jechi believed him. The mother-in-law told her to quickly take out some money to save the situation. Jechi said she would call Junyu, but father-in-law stopped her. Coincidentally, Jechi's parents arrived at that moment. The man wanted Jechi to take out the money as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, Jechi's father fainted when he got excited. Jechi didn't want to be bothered by the man, so she gave him 250,000 yuan. Fortunately, her father was not seriously injured. Afterwards, Monli came over to tell Jechi that those people were hired by Junyu's parents. However, the greedy Junyu's mother didn't stop at a good thing and wanted to get another 250,000 yuan from Jechi. They hired the man again. This time, Jechi just watched them act and watched the man push the father-in-law to the ground. Jechi just laughed. This time, not only did she not pay, she also wanted to get the 250,000 yuan she had given back. When the police arrived, the man who had been acting in the scene was so scared that his pants were wet. The panicked man went to the police station and told them everything at once. The old man said that his daughter-in-law was rich and wouldn't let him spend her money, so he asked for help. The mother-in-law tried to argue, but when the police said they would be detained, she immediately backed down. The cowardly father-in-law said that these people were indeed hired to act. Jechi was speechless. She immediately asked the mother-in-law for the 250,000 yuan back. Father-in-law and mother-in-law did not get along. Because of this incident, they had to go to jail and had to return the money. Afterwards, Jechi confessed to her parents that she was going to divorce Junyu. Her parents firmly supported her decision. Junyu took advantage of Monli and then ruthlessly kicked her out of the company. At this moment, Monli regretted not listening to Jechi's advice. Cyan can't wait to throw Monli's things in the trash. Seeing her ostentatious actions, one would think she has a deep grudge against Monli. Monli questions whether she has gone mad. What is she doing? Cyan says that I have already asked a colleague to help you pack up your things. Cyan's arrogance now will lead to her future regret. Monli throws away the umbrella that Junyu gave her. From now on, she will completely cut off ties with Junyu. And Junyu also thought he was the victor. He took Monli for granted, and in his eyes, Monli no longer posed a threat to him, so his vicious side was revealed. But there was no denying that Junyu was now really lucky. The company had hired a new assistant for him. The girl was called Yaji and she was the daughter of the company chairman. Yaji thought she was a returned overseas talent and she was arrogant in front of her colleagues. She started giving orders before she had even become familiar with her colleagues. Please update the performance data now and send it to me, the colleagues said. The regular data update is only on Friday. Yaji said she likes to get things done early. Junyu was ecstatic when he learned of her identity. If he could marry a wife like Yaji, he would be set for life. So he put on a righteous look and said, "If you can't do your job, leave the company immediately after the internship is over." Sure enough, Junyu's lofty words impressed Yaji, and after leaving Junyu, Monli also met true love. The company's newcomer, Sihao, fell in love with her at first sight. Seeing that Monli was liked, Cyan's jealousy resurfaced. She said that Monli was just a woman who liked to climb up the social ladder and told Jihao not to even think about it. But Jihao simply ignored Cyan's nonsense. In order to get close to Monli, He took a succulent plant and went up to her to strike up a conversation. Monli bluntly said, "You'll ask for my contact information next," and then casually asked how the flowers were doing. Shihao's little thoughts were clearly seen by her. Junyu knew that it was Yaji's birthday, so he asked her how she was spending it. Yaji said that she had wanted to celebrate by inviting her colleagues to dinner, but they all had no time. In fact, it wasn't that they didn't have time, but Yaji was really bad at socializing, so no one wanted to go. Junyu hypocritically said that as a boss, it seemed a bit bad to invite her to dinner, but buying a dessert to wish her a happy birthday should be fine. Junyu is very clever. He celebrated Yaji's birthday in the name of a boss, without acting like he was desperate. He maintained a kind of distant relationship with her, and this approach really made Yaji feel differently about him. Instead of going to a fancy restaurant, they went to a convenience store. Junyu bought a small cake. Perhaps Yaji, a rich lady who is used to a life of luxury, finds Junyu's small celebrations particularly refreshing. Junyu lit a lighter and let her make a wish. Yaji's face was full of excitement, and then she blew out the flame. Then Junyu began to establish the persona of a good man, husband, and father in front of Yaji. Yaji was indeed deceived by Junyu's lies. Junyu questioned her whether she was still single. After all that, this is Junyu's real intention. He is relieved to learn that Yaji is single. Yaji says this is the most meaningful birthday she has ever had. After leaving the convenience store, Junyu says he is going home to put his daughter to bed. Then he very thoughtfully calls an online car service for Yaji. Junyu's character completely won Yaji over. With a new goal, Junyu now looks at Monli very unfavorably. He forces Cyan to evict Monli, but what he didn't expect was that at the critical moment Zihan came to their company. Their company has always wanted to cooperate with Zihan, and one of Zihan's conditions for cooperation is that Monli be the contact person for the contract, otherwise, forget it. At this time, Junyu felt as if he had eaten a fly, but he couldn't show it. He told Monli to report to the leadership that he had negotiated this deal. Taking credit, Junyu was serious. In fact, it had nothing to do with him. The reason Zihan showed up at Junyu's company at a critical moment was that Juchi had gone to Zihan for help, because Juchi and Monli had really started to join forces against Junyu. Cyan, who had been arrogant at first, was much more honest now, because Monli had replaced her as the supervisor. She asked Cyan to give her back her resignation contract. The moment she saw the contract, she tore it up and threw it in the trash. Monli finally got her revenge. She called Juchi to report the good news, saying that Junyu and the snobbish Cyan were both furious today. This was the first beautiful counterattack by Juchi and Monli working together. Afterwards, Juchi personally came to thank Zihan, but she didn't want to seem too deliberate. Juchi found a corner to stand in, and Zihan felt confused when he saw her. Zihan asked her what her relationship with Monli was. In fact, he still doesn't know that Juchi is getting a divorce from Junyu. Zihan is still upset about Juchi's sudden return to the family at the peak of her career. That day, a colleague at the company told Junyu that he had met Juchi at a lecture. It turned out that Juchi had been secretly studying hard every day in order to get a divorce, hoping to regain her former glory one day. Junyu was shocked to learn that Juchi had been secretly studying. He had always hoped that Juchi would just stay at home. It would be best if she lost all her social skills so that he could do whatever he wanted with her. So he said to Juchi in a strange tone, "I hope you can see your place and put the family first." Juchi said, "I have already paid enough for this family. Now I want to be myself." Junyu, however, believes that since there is now a family, one should take on the responsibilities of a wife and mother. If you pursue self-worth, do you not care about the feelings of your family? If you sacrifice your family in order to be yourself, that is not pursuing self-worth. It is selfishness. Juchi said, "I already wanted to be selfish once, and I will not give up a second time." She didn't want to waste any more time arguing with Junyu and just wanted to do what she thought was right. Ironically, Junyu asked Juchi to stay at home. After a while, he started chatting with Yaji. However, all of this was seen by Juchi. This strengthened her decision to stand on her own 2 feet. Since she hadn't yet secured the position of vice president, Junyu had to continue to act like a loving couple with Juchi. He asked Juchi to accompany him to the birthday party of Yutong, a senior executive at the company. Juchi didn't want to go to these boring parties, but Monli then told Juchi that Yutong was a senior executive at the company, and that there would definitely be many industry leaders attending the party that day, which was a chance for Juchi, who wanted to return to the workplace. And those people might all become her network in the future. So she not only had to go but also had to go gracefully. As soon as Juchi arrived, Everyone was getting ready to go and have some fun. But Jiaqi, who was unaware of this, was not at all prepared. She immediately sent a message to Monli for help. Monli told Jiaqi not to worry and she would be there in half an hour. It turned out that the activity Yutong was talking about was playing snooker. After Yutong won a game, he asked who would play the next game. At this time, everyone's attention turned to Jiaqi. Just then, Monli arrived and brought Jiaqi's equipment. People with evil intentions wanted Jiaqi to make a fool of herself in public, so they told her to play a game of snooker with Yutong. But what no one expected was that Jiaqi cleared the table in one shot. O'Sullivan and Hendry would be ashamed to see this skill. Everyone at the scene was also stunned by this scene. Afterwards, Yutong took the initiative to find Jiaqi and was very surprised that she played so well. From casual conversation, she also learned that Jiaqi and Yutong were still alumni. What's even more amazing is that the master who taught them billiards was the same person. The two came up with an affectionate hug. The next day, Yutong met Junyu at the company and said that his wife played snooker better than he did. Anyway, she had nothing but praise for Jiaqi. Junyu, however, never knew that Jiaqi also played snooker, but there was a lot that he didn't know. Every time he took his assistant to the hotel to work overtime, Jiaqi was secretly coming to the company for another interview. The interviewer was still Zihan. As with the last time, through this period of hard work and study, Jiaqi was very well prepared. Zihan said, "What if you still don't get the job this time?" Jiaqi said, "Whether I can come to work here or not, I'm determined to continue on the path of finding and realizing myself." Zihan said, "Congratulations on joining our company's research department." This was Jiaqi's lowest point. Every day after that, she got better and better. Compared to her hard work and progress, Junyu and his female colleague grew further and further apart as they exercised together. Jiaqi, however, kept studying secretly without him knowing. Junyu still thought Jiaqi was just eating, drinking and having fun every day. Little did he know that Jiaqi had not only joined the top technology company in the industry, but had also formally hired a divorce lawyer. Now that she had a job, Jiaqi had more leverage in her fight for custody of her daughter, and waiting for her was a man worth loving and entrusting. At the end of the day, Jiaqi fell asleep at her desk because she was so tired. Zihan walked by and closed her computer. Jiaqi immediately woke up, claiming that she had not finished her work yet. The following conversation made Jiaqi have a different view of Zihan. He said that the reason he had achieved so much today was entirely because of Jiaqi. Jiaqi felt a little unbelievable. Zihan said that he had imagined countless times the possibility of the two of them meeting again. He had never imagined the situation in front of him. Zihan did his best to research technology in the hope that one day he could compete with Jiaqi. He just didn't expect Jiaqi to become a full-time housewife. Zihan said he now finally understands the feeling of being invincible. "The reason I want to help you is because I have a lot of respect for my former opponent. Maybe one day you will be able to compete with me again." But now Jiaqi has completely lost confidence. She has been out of the industry for too long and may never be able to defeat Zihan. And Zihan, seeing her thoughts, deliberately said something to provoke her. That day, after Junyu and Yaji had a big fight at the hotel, Yaji thought her status had changed qualitatively. She asked Junyu to wear the shirt she bought for him to the meeting. Junyu said it was not a good idea, but he was already happy in his heart. Later, they appeared together in the meeting room. Yaji gave everyone work arrangements, because tomorrow was the signing reception with Zihan, and no family members were invited to this work reception. Yaji said she would act as Junyu's female companion and be responsible for the reception of important guests together. The reason Junyu left early was that he didn't mind Yaji being his partner, and Yaji was so calculating that she even excluded Monli. She was just afraid that Monli would be prettier than her. Yaji ordered dresses for everyone except Monli, but Monli just laughed it off, because the more Yaji didn't let her go, the more she wanted to go. When Jiaqi returned home, Junyu scolded her. He didn't know what she was busy with every morning and every night. Jiaqi said, "I haven't had a chance to tell you yet, but I've passed the interview for a company." Junyu, who suddenly learned that Jiaqi was working, was a bit surprised, but at this time, he didn't know about Jiaqi's hidden plan. Jiaqi told Junyu to do his own things in the future. This made Junyu very dissatisfied and said, "I told you to stay at home and focus on the children. Am I wrong?" Facing Junyu's rant, Jiaqi responded very calmly. At this point, Jiaqi mentioned the female companion from the wine party. I'm relieved to know that your new assistant can still take care of your life. Zihan had lost his fierce attitude from earlier, so he made a complete about-face and supported Jechi going out to work. Junyu even gave Jechi a few words of concern. Jechi won this battle completely. The next day, Jechi went to Zihan's house in person to help him choose a suit, because tonight they were going to make Junyu look ridiculous. Before Monli arrived, Yaji had been showing off because her father was the CEO. Just as she was gloating, Zihan and Monli arrived. They instantly became the focus of the party. Yaji was instantly eclipsed in Monli's presence. Seeing how radiant and popular Monli was, Junyu felt like he had just swallowed a fly. The next day, Jechi had to pick up Monli on his way home from work. When Monli got into the car, she didn't see Zihan in the back seat, and she immediately questioned why she was getting off work so late. It couldn't be that perverted CEO Zihan is giving you a hard time, could it? Zihan in the back of the car had a huge headache when he heard this. Yesterday, he had helped Monli stand up to Junyu and Yaji for once. If it wasn't for Jechi, Zihan probably would have strangled Monli to death. The next day, Junyu's attitude changed 360 degrees. Learning that Monli was now on good terms with Zihan, he felt that she had become useful again. But before using her, he will belittle her a bit. Zihan is what kind of person? Just playing along. You must not have any dreams of becoming a rich man's wife. I have 2 projects coming down the pipeline. You can use this relationship to get things moving. Junyu wants to use Zihan's connections to facilitate cooperation with other people. Then he promised Monli that if he could get these contracts, he would not forget to reward you. Monli said that Zihan would never do such a disgusting thing after all. He relies on his abilities. Unlike you, Junyu questioned her, asking if she understood who was her boss. Monli said, I earn my living with my abilities. It doesn't matter who my boss is. Junyu was humiliated, thinking that she could manipulate Monli. In fact, Monli was no longer the silly girl she once was. She was now on better terms with Jechi than just good friends. With Monli as an insider in the company, it was only a matter of time before Jechi brought Junyu down to help Jechi get evidence of Junyu's infidelity. This day Monli deliberately spilled coffee, and Junyu's phone really could not be turned on because it had water damage. But this time he was careless and actually gave his phone to Jihao to repair. Monli took the opportunity to say that she happened to be going to get her phone repaired as well, so she asked Jihao to take Junyu's phone to get it repaired as well. Monli gave the phone to Jechi. Jechi downloaded all the data from Junyu's phone to her computer, and they went to the lawyer together. Jechi told the lawyer that Junyu had transferred more than 6 million yuan in total and that the whereabouts of these funds were unknown. The lawyer told Jechi that this was Junyu's usual tactic for transferring marital assets, and that they needed to hurry and find out where the money had gone. However, Junyu was very shrewd and Jechi didn't get any useful information. Instead, he began to test Jechi's situation. Jechi said, You're not worried that I'll overtake you one day, are you? Junyu secretly transferred marital property under the guise of buying a car. So girls must keep their eyes open and not be fooled by scumbags like Junyu. In order to climb the social ladder and curry favor with the rich, he sneered at Jechi, and secret money isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is whether it matches my status, identity, and temperament. However, Yaji's mother looked down on Junyu from the bottom of her heart. That day, Junyu and Yaji were imagining their future in their newly purchased mansion. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It turned out to be Yaji's mother. When she came in, she didn't even bother to look at Junyu. Junyu went up to say hello, but Yaji's mother coldly told him to go wait outside. Yaji's behavior of belittling herself made her mother very angry. Her mother still hopes that she can see Junyu's true face, but it is clear that Yaji has already fallen under Junyu's spell and cannot extricate herself. I heard that their family runs a small shop. Compared to our family, the gap is not just a little. Behind the disparity in social status is a huge difference in values. My mother earnestly advised Yaji to turn back, but the stubborn Yaji was determined to be with Junyu. My mother even said that Junyu can throw away everything for you today, and he can leave you for someone else tomorrow just as easily. In my mother's eyes, Junyu is an ungrateful scoundrel, but Yaji didn't listen to any of these words of advice. My mother called Junyu in to vent her anger. Junyu said, We also hope to receive your blessings. Please feel free to make any requests. Yaji's only request was for him to leave his daughter alone. People like you can only deceive simple girls like Yaji. One day, Yaji will pay for her ignorance. You will too. Sooner or later, you will get your comeuppance. Yaji's mother's words really made her feel better. In order to help Junyu gain a foothold in the company, Yaji used her connections to personally bring in clients for Junyu. She got drunk. When Dad saw Yaji treating herself so badly for someone who didn't deserve it, he felt so sad. He blamed himself for protecting Yaji too well, so that she didn't know the world and couldn't tell people apart. Yaji was scolded by her father and ran away alone. At that moment, Junyu arrived and started to manipulate Yaji again. Junyu said he didn't want to see her fall out with her parents and be sad. He pretended to be pitiful and heartbroken, then pretended to leave. Junyu was sure that Yaji would call out to him, and sure enough, Yaji was unable to resist the charms of this hypocritical guy. The next morning, Yaji sobered up. I wonder if she regrets last night. At that moment, Junyu brought her breakfast. Yaji said she had drunk too much yesterday. No matter what happens, you don't have to worry, Junyu hypocritically said. From today onwards, I will be responsible for our future. Juchi went to the supermarket to buy groceries. When it came to paying with her card, she found that it had been frozen. When she left the supermarket, she immediately called Junyu to ask why her card had been disabled. It turned out that Junyu had disabled her card for her, claiming that he was short of cash, but Juchi used her own money. In fact, Junyu was laying the groundwork for a divorce. When he returned home that evening, Junyu told his parents about it first. You get the kind of mother you deserve. Junyu also specifically told his parents not to tell Juchi for the time being. On the one hand, our divorce will involve the division of property. I need a little time to deal with it. Junyu was buying himself time to transfer his assets. However, he had no idea that Juchi had already made preparations. At this time, Juchi returned with her daughter. They immediately stopped the discussion. In fact, Juchi pretty much knew what they were talking about. At this time, Lily said, "Daddy, you smell." Juchi told her daughter, "Your father smells of perfume." In fact, Junyu was also stupid. Juchi's words obviously contained a hidden meaning. If he had thought about it a little, he should have been able to figure it out. Juchi had long since begun to suspect him. Moreover, his motives were so obvious. Junyu said, "The common language between us is becoming less and less." Instead of arguing, Juchi laughed and said, "We're like an old married couple." Her attitude took Junyu by surprise. Junyu said cunningly that he was afraid of making Juchi unhappy. Juchi said, "What's there to be unhappy about? I have you and the kids. I'm especially content." She wanted to see what Junyu would do next. Meanwhile, Juchi was making her final preparations. Since Junyu had cut off her credit card, Juchi had tea. Since Junyu had cut off her credit card, Juchi had to take on private work to earn extra money. One day, she was suddenly seen by Zihan. Zihan believed that Juchi must be in trouble, so he asked Monli out to find out what had happened to Juchi. Next, Monli told Zihan everything about Junyu and Juchi, including her past with Junyu. Zihan was very surprised to learn this. It turned out that Juchi was now going through psychological torture alone. Seeing the exhausted Juchi, Zihan walked up to her and put her jacket on. This was perhaps Juchi's good fortune. She had reunited with Zihan at the lowest point in her life. That night, he suddenly received a mysterious phone call. He didn't dare to answer it in front of Juchi, but Juchi glanced at the caller ID and remembered it. Junyu said in a panic that it was a harassing call and hurriedly left the house with his suitcase. Juchi checked the number that had just called Junyu and found that it was the number of an overseas real estate agency. She immediately associated it with the 6 million that Junyu had secretly transferred out. It was possible that he had purchased real estate overseas. It was impossible to transfer more than 6 million yuan without a trace. He would definitely leave traces somewhere. If we can find out where the 6 million yuan went, it will deal a heavy blow to Junyu in court. Juchi immediately found the company. At this time, a man saw her. The man was very wary and suspected that Juchi's intentions were not pure. He then asked Juchi how she knew about their company. Because they only do business with acquaintances. Very few people know about their business. Our company follows the principle of customer first and protects the privacy of our customers. The man's attitude made it clear that he would not provide Juchi with any information, but Juchi did not give up. She waited downstairs and met a female employee of their company. Juchi told her about her encounter and tried to persuade her to tell her in which country Junyu had bought the property, but the woman could not afford to lose her job as she had to support her child. So she had to refuse Juchi, but obviously she sympathized with Juchi. Just as Juchi was desperately looking for funding, an incident occurred that unexpectedly caused Junyu and Juchi to have a falling out. That day, her daughter saw Junyu running after him in the mall, and accidentally fell, hitting her chin. This was good. Junyu, who had been unable to find an excuse, began to take advantage of the situation and asked Juchi, "How can you be a mother? Is your little career dream more important than your child?" Juchi said, "If I pursue a career, that's selfish. If you pursue a career, that's not selfish." Junyu then proposed a divorce. In fact, this was completely within Juchi's expectations, so she wasn't surprised. Instead, she asked, "What were you doing when your daughter was hurt? You haven't asked your daughter if she's hurt since she was admitted to the hospital. Instead, you can't wait to file for divorce." Junyu was obviously feeling guilty, but his mind was made up. When he got home, he handed Juchi a divorce agreement he had brought with him. Junyu said lightly, "I'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to complete the paperwork in my spare time." Juchi mocked him. He really has a knack for predicting the future. Junyu said, "You haven't been in touch with society for years. Staying at home, we no longer have anything in common. You can't even be a good mother now. Our marriage is no longer necessary." Juchi gave up her career to become a full-time mother and devoted herself to taking care of the family. She never imagined that this would become the reason why Junyu would leave her. Junyu shamelessly said, "People change. No one is responsible for other people's lives. You don't need to morally blackmail us. We don't owe each other anything." Juchi then proposed a deal. They would split their joint assets in half, and she would get custody of their daughter. Junyu, however, said that he had hired the best lawyer and would not give Juchi any money. He was afraid that Juchi had already hired a lawyer and had gathered quite a bit of evidence against him. Junyu had just sold the house without telling Juchi in order to force her to sign the divorce agreement. In a fit of anger, Juchi's parents kicked the house viewing people out. Juchi went to the company to confront Junyu. Where would she and her daughter live if he sold the house? In fact, this was just Junyu's tactic. "If you agree to sign the divorce papers, I'll give you some money to buy a smaller house." Junyu just wanted to divorce Juchi at the lowest cost. He thought Juchi would not make a big deal out of it, and even used their daughter as an excuse. Junyu said that his future would affect his daughter's quality of life in the future. Juchi can make a scene at the company now to completely destroy Junyu's character. But then she remembers what the lawyer said. She must be patient until she has found out where Junyu has transferred his assets. So Juchi deliberately lets Junyu think that she is backing down this time, but she still has to say what she has to say. "You think that I will sign the divorce agreement and hand over the custody of the child just because of this?" Juchi now finally wants to find out in which country Junyu bought the house. She asked Tianzi to pretend to go to a real estate agency for an interview. Then she asked Monli to deliberately go to the agency and cause trouble to attract the owner's attention. Meanwhile, Tianzi secretly used the owner's phone to call Junyu. Junyu said, "You found the person. My house is in New Zealand and has already been transferred." Tianzi gave a sign to her sister. Then Monli said she had gone to the wrong place and walked away. Junyu seemed to have become suspicious afterwards. He called back and was relieved to hear it was the boss's voice. He thought everything was foolproof, so he asked someone to get Juchi to leave. The child, probably having never seen such a scene, was so scared that he started crying. At this time, Junyu called to ask Juchi if he had thought it over. The lawyer then said that if Juchi was willing, Junyu could get 1 million in compensation. But Juchi didn't even think about it before asking the lawyer to produce all the evidence of Junyu transferring his assets. Junyu was stunned. He didn't know that Juchi had prepared so much evidence. This evidence confirmed his act of transferring assets. Junyu asked Juchi when he had become so calculating. Juchi said, "Don't you think that's ridiculous? You can plot against me, but I'm calculating when I defend my own interests?" At this point, Junyu's lawyer said that the assets had already been transferred overseas. Juchi would be unable to do anything about it in China. He even said that this kind of lawsuit would drag on for a long time. Junyu could drag on, but Juchi couldn't. Juchi's lawyer said, "We have all the time in the world. We have already notarized and authenticated the evidence overseas at the embassy. If necessary, we can submit it at any time." Then the lawyer showed Junyu a photo. Junyu has now completely understood Juchi. Juchi is not just a stay-at-home mom who does the housework. Junyu had missed Juchi when they were at university. This time, he didn't want to let himself down again. Juchi had nowhere to go after Junyu threw her out. Unexpectedly, Zihan gave Juchi his old mansion worth hundreds of millions of yuan. It had all the facilities. It was so comfortable to live there. In Monli's words, Juchi had benefited from the disaster. Junyu, on the other hand, was having a hard time. He told his parents that Juchi is now a big problem. Junyu's parents don't know that Juchi has all the evidence, but they are thinking of taking up for their son. Early in the morning, before Juchi got up, Her in-laws came over. They came today to fight for custody of their grandchild. As soon as the mother-in-law entered the door, she accused Juchi of letting her daughter eat takeaway. Juchi had been too busy at work to take care of her daughter, so she had asked her parents to look after her. Unexpectedly, the parents-in-law used this as an excuse to say that Juchi didn't have time to take care of the child and gave the child to Junyu. Juchi argued that her parents could also help her take care of the child. Father-in-law said that the child has the same surname as him. Can your father take care of it with all his heart? Zihan returned and said domineeringly that it's enough to let the child change his surname. At this time, mother-in-law began to slander Juchi and Zihan's relationship. No wonder Junyu proposed a divorce. You're not arguing and making noise. It turns out you found a man. Juchi was so angry that she told them to get out of there. The mother-in-law was like a bird that had caught a worm. She threatened to expose the scandalous affair that Juchi had been involved in. Her behavior completely angered Juchi. You know best who has a problem between Junyu and me. The mother-in-law even said arrogantly, do you have any evidence? How dare you slander my son? Juchi said, if you don't mind, I'll post the evidence at Junyu's company. The parents came to the company and instigated, saying that Juchi ignored the child, while Juchi herself lived in a foreign-style house and led a comfortable life. In fact, this is the ugly side of their nature. What they hope is that Juchi will have a miserable life. After Juchi left Junyu, not only did she have a good life, she also had an excellent Zihan by her side. Junyu saw that Juchi had been promoted at Zihan's company and was even more upset. How could Juchi be better than him? I don't know what's going on in Junyu's head. He even asked Zihan out and demanded that Zihan revoke the appointment of Juchi. Zihan questioned, is this a requirement of your company or your personal request? Your company has no right to interfere with our company's personnel transfers. If it's your idea, then I'm even more sorry. We don't know each other well. Zihan was not at all moved. Junyu began to disparage Juchi. Juchi is just a housewife who has just returned to the workplace and is not at all capable of taking on this position. Zihan said he had a meeting and immediately got up and left. Junyu really brought shame upon himself and made trouble for nothing. I really find it strange too. Junyu clearly does not love his daughter but is begging for custody. When will he be able to take off this mask of hypocrisy? And the child also said that she only wants to live with her mother. Isn't it warm when both mother and daughter rush towards each other? Juchi went to pick up her child from kindergarten that day, but the teacher told her that her child had already been picked up by her grandparents. Juchi knew that Junyu must have done it. Sure enough, the grandparents had Lily hidden in a hotel. Lily kept crying because she couldn't see her mother, but the grandparents were unmoved. They would stoop to anything to help Junyu, and Dad even advised Junyu to be ruthless and not to relent. With such a family background, Junyu will definitely become a scumbag if he doesn't. Later, Juchi went to Junyu's company and demanded to see her child. Junyu's attitude was very strong because he knew that his daughter was Juchi's weak point. As long as he controlled his daughter, Juchi would obediently comply and make huge concessions. Juchi, who had lost control of her emotions, was desperate to see her daughter at that time, but Junyu simply won't consider the slightest shred of marital affection. Junyu says, don't you want to save time? Let's just keep going until one of us gives up. Juchi understands that if she doesn't sign the divorce agreement, she won't be able to see her daughter. She gathers Monli, Zihan and the lawyer to discuss a strategy, because Juchi and Junyu have not yet gone through the divorce process. Legally there is nothing she can do against Junyu. Juchi, who had lost her mind, wanted to agree to Junyu's terms, and she just wanted to see her daughter again. She didn't care about anything else. Zihan stopped her in time and made her come to her senses. You'll be playing right into his hands if you call him now, said the lawyer, although Juchi could no longer hold out. Junyu was also reaching his limit. It was a matter of who would lose their temper first. However, one thing changed Juchi's mind. One day, Grandma took Lily to the mall to play. Lily's classmate saw her by accident, so Lily whispered a few words to her classmate while her grandmother went to the bathroom. The next day, the classmate's mother gave Juchi the blue 1,000 paper cranes. Lily said she missed her mother and that a place with a mother was home. Juchi secretly determined that she would never be separated from her daughter in this life. However, an accidental discovery by Monli helped Juchi. That day, she overheard Junyu and Yaji talking. Yaji gave Junyu an ultimatum. he had 1 month to settle Jechi's affairs. It turned out that Jechi's lawyer had been right. The one who was most anxious was Junyu. Monli immediately told Jechi this. Jechi knew that Junyu would only use despicable tactics. Yutong met Junyu in the garage and invited him to an art exhibition she was sponsoring. She specifically told Junyu to bring Jechi. Junyu immediately made up an excuse that Jechi had to accompany the child to a training class, but this time he miscalculated. On the day of the art exhibition, he was talking eloquently when suddenly Jechi arrived. Jechi's sudden appearance made Junyu feel that something was wrong. But at this time Junyu pretended to be calm and asked Jechi why she didn't say anything in advance. Jechi said, "You didn't tell me in advance either." Every word she said made Yaji feel like sitting on pins and needles. Junyu saw this and quickly stepped forward and said, "We need to be careful what we say. We need to behave decently." Jechi said, "People like you are despicable and have no decency at all. I just want to expose your ugliness in broad daylight." Junyu thought that Jechi would not dare to do anything for the sake of face, but he was wrong. He had long ago taught Jechi how to deal with scum. Junyu wanted to quickly take Jechi away at this time, but Jechi had come here, so she could not just leave easily. She immediately told Junyu all his bad deeds. This completely destroyed Yaji's reputation. This is the kind of unconventional method you need to use to deal with scum like Junyu. Junyu was still trying to argue his way out of it, but Jechi wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. Suddenly Junyu revealed his true face. This was the real him. Yutong scolded him, telling him not to go too far and to be careful. Junyu had no face to stay, so he had to leave. Jechi's behavior was not refined, but it really felt good. Later, the news that she had caused a scene at the art exhibition was trending on the internet. Junyu and Yaji's affair was also going viral online. All the posts were scolding him. Now they had become the laughingstock of others. The company's senior management also interviewed Junyu. However, Junyu said that he had not expected Jechi to take such an extreme action. She would use any means to get more. Yutong is obviously a sensible person and secretly mocks Junyu's character. Junyu also knows that after Jechi's antics yesterday, his image as a good man has collapsed. He can only accept the company's demotion of him. Yutong also reminds Junyu to give up custody of his daughter to Jechi. Junyu realizes that the company's senior management does not believe his slander against Jechi. In his difficult situation, he can only take the initiative to negotiate with Jechi. However, Junyu is still unwilling to split the assets equally, and his only concession is to give up custody of his daughter. Jechi's lawyer says, "If necessary, I will sue you." In the end, under the strong influence of Jechi and his lawyer, Junyu had no choice but to compromise. On the day they went through the formalities, a newlywed couple gave them both wedding candy. Junyu said they were here to get a divorce, which made the newlyweds quite embarrassed. At this time, Jechi stopped them to express his gratitude. Leaving Junyu is indeed a happy event for Jechi. Soon the two of them completed the divorce procedures and walked out. Jechi is like a new life. In her words, "Today is the day she was reborn." No one can put the full weight of life on another person. If you can't be independent, you should learn to be independent first. If you don't feel secure, you should learn to give yourself a sense of security. Marriage should be the icing on the cake. The solution to all problems has always been ourselves. Yaji reports an unexpected pregnancy to Junyu immediately. The wedding is also arranged. She also makes a condition that she will not live with Junyu's parents in the future. Junyu says that his current financial situation cannot afford a new house. Yaji immediately asks him what he means. Junyu has not yet reaped the benefits from her, and now he has to spend a large sum of money on a house. Of course he will not do something that is a loss, so Junyu asks Yaji to borrow some money from her parents first. Yaji is not stupid. Her parents never approved of the marriage in the first place. She made it clear that Junyu should not expect to borrow any money from her parents. This is the retribution for Junyu's desire to take the easy way out. And Junyu's parents are even funnier. They thought that after their son married Yaji, they would be able to live in a luxury villa. Unexpectedly, Yaji's parents not only did not give them the villa, but also made Junyu pay for the house himself. But Junyu is really good at calculating. He is imagining that Yaji is an only child and that all her future wealth will be his. So he is now spending money on Yaji as if it were an investment. After hearing this, Junyu's parents were overjoyed, but they were living in a dream world. On the day of the wedding, Yaji's parents simply refused to come, but Junyu reassured Yaji that her parents would definitely come, because he had sent invitations to all of Yaji's parents' friends. Junyu expected Yaji's parents to come for the sake of face. Sure enough, Yaji's parents came at the last minute. Junyu thought that this time he was set as the son-in-law. Unfortunately, this was his wishful thinking. During the toast, Yaji's parents refused to drink to Junyu. Yaji's mother said, "Just because we are here today doesn't mean we approve of you as a person. In terms of family background, you are overstepping yourself by asking Yaji to marry you. Yaji choosing you is because we as parents have not educated our daughter well." Junyu quickly expressed his loyalty, but he didn't expect his snobbish parents to have something to say. "You mean to say that our son is not good enough for your daughter? We are not afraid of opponents as formidable as gods, but we are afraid of teammates as clumsy as pigs." Yaji's parents had never liked Junyu's character. Junyu's mother started a big scene. The guests present were like watching a play. Junyu, however, threatened his father-in-law with Yaji's pregnancy. The result was to make him even more embarrassed. Yaji said that she wanted to use the child to blackmail me. Don't even think about it. After marriage, Yaji is unwilling to put up with her mother-in-law's bad habits. The TV is too loud and affects her sleep. She goes straight out and turns it off. Yaji finally gives them a warning. If this happens again, they are asked to move out. "If you want to continue living here, you have to follow my rules." Juchi celebrates her return to singlehood with Monli and a group of girlfriends, drinking and partying in a bar. Zihan has been dressed up as a young lady by Lily. He couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to call Juchi back. When Juchi returned home, she saw her daughter asleep. Zihan was busy with his own things. Later, the two of them walked and talked. Zihan also planned to confess his love to Juchi that night. He was just about to tell her how he felt when he was unexpectedly interrupted by the sound of a motorcycle. When Juchi pursued him, he flinched. He was unable to say it. It was clear that Juchi was actually quite disappointed, because she already knew Zihan's feelings for her. Juchi had been waiting for this moment. Unfortunately, Zihan let her down at the critical moment. After leaving Junyu, Juchi has experienced a period of upward mobility in her career. She led a team to create an algorithm that overcame technical difficulties. This is the result of the team's unremitting efforts. Although a technological breakthrough has been achieved, there is still a long way to go before it can be commercialized. Juchi is under a lot of pressure due to the company's operating funds. She came out alone and was dejected. Zihan found her and came over to keep her company. Juchi let out her feelings. She was scared that she would let everyone who followed her down. Juchi cried on Zihan's back. Zihan did not comfort her, but silently let Juchi release the emotions that had been pent up for a long time. As time passed, Zihan, Juchi and Lily slowly began to feel like a family. Juchi was busy going out every day to raise investment, while Zihan stayed at home to take care of Lily. And Lily's affection for Zihan surpassed that for Junyu. Lily then gave Zihan a pair of men's slippers, which was a privilege reserved for the man of the house. And the slippers were the same as those of Juchi and her daughter. Lily said excitedly, "This way we'll look like a family." That day, Juchi's colleague found her. If the house wasn't handed over, the landlord would evict them. Juchi faced the failure of her first business. Just then, the investor Yutong asked to meet her, which gave her hope. After the two met, they were discussing investment matters. However, at this time, Yutong suddenly saw her husband and her face suddenly changed. In fact, this was deliberately arranged by Juchi. Juchi had long known that Yutong's husband had hired a young secretary. As a woman, she couldn't bear to let Yutong be unaware of it. Xiaomei then took the opportunity of meeting with Yutong to let the other party witness it with their own eyes. After learning the truth, Yutong also lost the mood to discuss investment. Juchi's company also completely lost hope, but she does not regret doing so. With no other options, she sent an email to all employees announcing the dissolution of the company. As she left, Juchi looked back at the place where she had poured her sweat and hard work. She thought back to the hardships she had encountered along the way, and her heart was filled with mixed emotions. After Juchi walked out the door, Zihan had already been waiting there. "Do you want to know what I do when I'm depressed?" Zihan took Juchi to the game arcade to play games together. Slowly, Juchi's mood improved. As they were leaving, Zihan invited Juchi to return to his company and work. But Juchi told Zihan, "I want to meet with your company's board of directors again." Early the next morning, Zihan was ready to take Juchi to negotiate with the board of directors. Juchi was fully prepared to keep the company going. Just then, Yutong suddenly appeared. As long as Yutong was willing to invest in Juchi's company, it could be resurrected. Here, Juchi's company was preparing to dispose of everything. At this time, a colleague received a phone call telling them not to move anything. After getting the financing, Juchi moved to a new office. Juchi and her colleagues raised their glasses to celebrate this hard-won success. At this time, Monli noticed that Zihan was staring at Juchi. She called Zihan aside and said, "You can't be so indecisive anymore." Monli encouraged Zihan to take the initiative to pursue Juchi. "Don't miss it again. And don't let Juchi meet someone like Junyu again." Monli's words deeply touched Zihan. On the way back, he wanted to tell Juchi how he felt, but when he turned around, he saw that Juchi was asleep. Zihan was about to put his jacket on Juchi, but then she suddenly woke up. This was probably the first time the two of them had been so close to each other. After getting off the bus, Zihan summoned up the courage to stop Juchi. After a moment's hesitation, he didn't say anything. Juchi's phone suddenly rang. Zihan wanted to say something, but then, she told him to tell her tomorrow, and then went inside. After Zihan left, Juchi came out again. In fact, she already knew what the other person wanted to say. At this time, Yaji was again having a big temper tantrum with Junyu's mother. "Am I just a childbearing machine in your eyes? Junyu married a rich girl, and now he's suffering the consequences." In the end, he could only bring his parents to live in a hotel. Yaji married into the family with great difficulty, and he can't afford to offend them. Now he has to sacrifice his parents. Mom pointed her finger at Junyu's nose and said, "You married a wife and forgot about our parents. No comparison. No harm." Junyu's father then remembered Jichi's goodness. Although Juchi usually didn't get along with them, at least she was better than the current daughter-in-law. But what's the point of talking about this now? Soon the rumor that Yaji had kicked her in-laws out spread like wildfire. That night, Junyu went to a class reunion. His classmates had even heard that Yaji was a formidable woman. Junyu, however, tried his best to argue that it was all just gossip, and that Yaji was a very controlling person. While Junyu was at the reunion, Yaji kept calling him. I don't know if she didn't have confidence in herself or Junyu. Junyu refused to answer the phone in order to show off his manhood in front of his classmates. At this moment, he should have been upset. He drank several glasses of wine in a row. Maybe he should regret it now. Yaji soon discovered Junyu's problem. She suddenly heard Junyu's phone ring that night. It turned out that Junyu had sold the core data of his company to someone else, and the competitor gave him a large sum of money. Yaji questioned him about whether he knew that this behavior was illegal. Junyu said that this kind of thing must not be leaked out, otherwise you will also be implicated. At this time Yaji realized Junyu's ugly face, but Junyu can always convince Yaji at critical moments. "I did this for the sake of you and the child. I promise you that I will never do this again next time." The simple Yaji believed him after hearing this, but soon she saw Junyu's hypocrisy. That night, Junyu got drunk again. As soon as he got home, he collapsed on the sofa. Yaji looked at this man who was so different before and after marriage, and her heart was full of unspeakable sorrow. But what made her even more dumbfounded was that Junyu started talking nonsense because he had drunk too much. Junyu said, "Who says I'm afraid of my wife? Those people are talking nonsense." At first, Yaji thought Junyu was talking about her, but slowly she realized that the person described by Junyu had nothing to do with her. Suddenly she thought of someone, and that was Jiachi. Yaji angrily poured a glass of water in Junyu's face. Junyu, in order to sabotage the cooperation between Jiachi's company and Future Group, he even went so far as to persuade the board of directors to acquire Future Group, so that Jiachi's company could not survive. In fact, the cooperation between Juchi and Future Group was just deliberately made known to Junyu. She had long calculated that Junyu would definitely cause trouble. Soon after, the board of directors approached Junyu. The acquisition was terminated due to suspected financial fraud by Future Group. The board of directors now suspects that Junyu received huge kickbacks from Future Group. If the report is true, Junyu not only risks being fired, but may also be held criminally responsible. At this time, Juchi, with her down-to-earth approach, developed algorithms that were favored by top companies in the industry. She finally led the company out of its predicament and ushered in an era of rapid development. Junyu, after doing something wrong, wanted to seek his father-in-law's help. He didn't want to go to jail and guaranteed with his character that there would be no next time. Yaji's father knew his character and made it clear that he couldn't help with this. Junyu said, "You can help me, but you also have to think about your daughter. If something goes wrong with my career, your child will suffer in the future." Yaji's father didn't like Junyu anyway. At this time, not kicking someone when they're down would be considered polite. Junyu wanted to use Yaji to beg her father at this time. Yaji's attitude is clear. If there is no problem, let them investigate. If you really have a problem, I can help. Junyu is still arguing. He just admitted that he received a little public relations fee from them. He once again used the unborn child as an excuse. Do you want the child to be born without a father? But Yaji is still unmoved. Seeing this, Junyu stopped pretending. He questioned her if she wanted to see him die without help. Yaji said, "Our family doesn't lack money. Why do you have to do such a despicable thing?" Junyu said, "It's because your family bullies others that I'm doing this. I don't want to see your family's contempt and disdain." Junyu was being driven by a twisted sense of pride, so he resorted to this suicidal way of making money. Yaji said, "You reap what you sow. Don't blame anyone." Unexpectedly, Junyu said viciously, "Then let's rip each other's faces off. No one will have an easy time." But Yaji told him, "Even if you really go to jail, it has nothing to do with our family." Junyu said, "Do you want to dump me now?" Once he said this, he was doomed to never go back. Yaji was so angry that she wanted to fight right away, but Junyu wouldn't let her win this time. Yaji felt sick in her stomach immediately after being pushed. At this time, in her eyes, Junyu was a lunatic. She just wanted to leave quickly. Junyu has brought this upon himself. Yaji, who is alone outside, is afraid that she will go into early labor because of her emotions just now. Fortunately, Monli and Juchi happened to pass by and took her to the hospital in time. Zihan was determined to confess his love to Juchi that night, but Juchi still had some concerns because of her failed marriage to Junyu. She was afraid to love again. Not to mention the fact that she was now a single mother. She was afraid that if their relationship failed, they would not even be able to remain friends. Juchi was very honest with Zihan and said that it was not an easy decision for her to make. She hoped that Zihan could give her some time to think about it. Zihan promises to wait for her forever. Since Zihan confessed his love for Juchi, she has been afraid to face him. That night, Juchi has just left the office when Zihan tries to ask her out, but Juchi lies to him, saying that she is almost home. What she doesn't know is that Zihan is watching her from not far away. He realizes that Juchi is avoiding him. That day, Juchi and Monli confided in each other. If she were to reject Zihan, would he disappear from my world? If I accept him, will our relationship fail? Juchi was deeply hurt by Junyu, and now she is afraid to enter into a new relationship. But Monli also told her that Zihan is different from Junyu. If you reject Zihan, you will regret it in the future. The next day, Juchi and Zihan went to their alma mater together. Zihan asked Juchi to go to the school billiards room to compete, and he taught Juchi the tricks of the trade. Back when they were at university, Junyu also taught Juchi how to play billiards, and they never thought that years later they would be back to square one. But unlike back then, Zihan would not miss Juchi this time. The order of events in life is important. A little earlier or a little later and the outcome will be completely different. But if you will come eventually, it's okay to be a little later. We have long since outgrown our youth and have each become a better version of ourselves. We met at the most mature time of our lives, and you came along just in time. The next step is the important proposal. At the Juchi company launch, Zihan secretly arranged a proposal without Juchi's knowledge. Then a sparkling diamond appeared on the big screen. At this moment, Zihan knelt down on one knee and held up the diamond ring he had been preparing for a long time. His eyes were full of anticipation. He said in a trembling voice, "Will you marry me?" Time seemed to have stopped at that moment. Everyone there was waiting for Juchi's answer. And this time, Juchi accepted without hesitation. A bright smile blossomed on her face. Her heart was full of anticipation and hope for the future. At this special moment, Juchi made the right choice. On the weekend, Zihan and Juchi's wedding was officially held. Zihan stood quietly in the center of the stage, his eyes full of anticipation and waiting. To gentle music, her father formally handed Juchi's hand to Zihan. On this day, Monli used her phone to record evidence of Junyu's crime. When Junyu found out, he immediately told her to hand over the video. Luckily, Monli was smart and immediately sent the video to her email after recording it. Even if Junyu took her phone away, it would be useless. At this time, he began to threaten Monli about the bribes they had taken together. If he went to prison, Monli would not get away either. But Monli was not intimidated by Junyu. She decided to hand over the evidence to the company's board of directors. Junyu saw Monli get into the elevator and immediately started to chase after her. But in the end, he was still too late. Monli handed the video to the company's boss and revealed all of Junyu's financial dealings with clients over the years. She was even willing to testify in court if necessary. Junyu knew it was over. He went to the hospital one last time to see his newborn daughter. Unfortunately, He and his parents were stopped outside the room. Yaji's parents simply would not let them in. Our daughter has already decided to divorce you. Junyu still tried to express his disagreement with the divorce. Yaji's father said, I'm not negotiating. I'm informing you. I hope you'll be equally clever in this matter. At this point, Junyu knows he can't compete with Yaji's parents. What's more, time is running out. His father tells Junyu that he must not agree to a divorce. The reason is that Yaji has no assets in her name. If they divorce, Junyu will not only get no money, he will also have to give half of his assets to Yaji. Junyu says that he and Yaji signed a prenuptial agreement, so if they divorce, he won't get a penny. A drunken Junyu went to the place where his daughter often played, and remembered the happy past when the three of them laughed and played here. At the beginning, he was lost by wealth and thought that Yaji, a rich girl, could bring him more material enjoyment and vanity satisfaction. Unexpectedly, he paid such a high price for it. Now he finally realized the emptiness in his heart and endless remorse. Regret is a foregone conclusion. He can only bear the pain in his heart forever. That day, Junyu went to the ice hockey stadium to watch his daughter play, but he accidentally saw a warm and happy scene of Zihan and Juchi. His heart was full of mixed emotions. This beauty should have been his, but he had lost it himself. But what was meant to become anyway? Junyu was taken away for economic crimes. He had a successful career and a wealthy life, and a lovely daughter. But now, overnight, he had become a prisoner. Juchi and Zihan were worried about Lily after they learned that Junyu had been arrested, because Lily is still waiting for Junyu to take her out this weekend. Zihan said, why don't we just tell Lily that Junyu is on a business trip? But Juchi still decided to tell Lily the truth, which was also a kind of growth for Lily. Juchi's idea was supported by Zihan, and they decided to face it together with Lily. Okay, that's the end of today's story. Thank you for your support and company. See you next time.